everyone, Rebecca the Frugal Resinista here, and I'm really excited about today's project. I was thrift store shopping today, and I found this picture for $5.09 at Goodwill, and it is a picture that has already got a really shiny edge to it. It looks like it's already been coated in a layer of plastic or resin or however they do it. I think it's like a shrink wrap plastic kind of thing. But anyway, what I'm going to do is turn this into a geode that someone has requested I make in Peacock colors. So I am going to make this one of my 3D geodes, but let me tell you this. Let's peel the back off the rest of the way here. This is all wood. And what's so nice about this is that with it being wood already, I've only spent $5. I didn't spend a ton on a canvas, but this thing is super, super sturdy. I'm going to make a 3D dent in this, and I'm going to put it kind of up in the top corner here. So I'll show you guys more of this later if you haven't yet seen how I do these, but my hole is going to hold things in it and be in another canvas underneath. So the first thing I'm going to do is just take a pen and mark where this is. And then this is about an inch in. I'm just eyeballing it, but I'm giving myself a little extra. So I know that the space I can cut into this piece of wood is only the size of this square. So the first thing I'm going to do is go cut this, and then I'm going to tape things off and spray paint the top white just so we don't have any colors showing through, and then we will keep going with the next steps. All right, I took this out and I cut it with my jigsaw. And I will link you guys to a video that shows how to use one of those if you have not done that. And now I'm going to talk to you very briefly about how I've been taping things lately, because I love my new way of taping. I have been using electrical tape. It has some stretch to it, and it's very easy to peel off if you get it in the wrong spot and re-peel it, and it'll stay just as sticky. And then, instead of messing with painter's tape and everything, because some of these surfaces that I use are already smooth and shiny, and painter's tape doesn't always stick great, I literally just use packing tape. Once I've got my electrical tape over this edge, I'll just cover the sides with packing tape. So I'm going to do that real quick, and then I'm going to put some white primer on this, and we'll keep moving. I did sand the inside of this with some sandpaper by hand, and then if you'll notice, I also scuffed all this up, because if I'm pouring onto something that is already shiny, I want to make sure my resin's going to stick really well. So now this is all scuffed up. Okay, I have this primed, and the next thing I'm going to do is get the little inside part that's going to be the 3D portion of my geode taken care of. Now I've got some blue crushed glass that's vase filler from Michaels, and then a mix of some gold and some white crushed glass also from Michaels, and I'll link you to ways to get a hold of all of this in the comment section. And then I've also got just some really thick cardstock paper that is super, super sparkly, and I am not going to worry too much about this. I'm just going to eyeball it, but I'm going to cut myself a piece that is just a little bit bigger than the inside of my canvas. And I've got my glue gun heating up in the corner. I'm actually going to cut this so that I can lay it all the way down in here, glue it down, and glue it up along these edges, and then we'll just fill it with some of the stones that I just showed you. If you're new to this, you can use a blowtorch or any type of heat gun to pop the bubbles in your resin as you go, so that you don't have bubbles drying in your resin. So I am really happy with that. Shake this around, any loose pieces, make sure I get them pushed down into that resin, because it's not a thick layer of resin. It's really thin because I need space between this and my hole. The last thing I'm going to do is, with this extra resin that I saved, I'm going to add resin right along this edge on the outside, so that as it cures, it's going to stick onto here. So I'm going to start by just, nothing fancy, just drizzling it all over. And as I pour my geode on the top, more resin's also going to fall in here, but this gives me a good start to it. Now I'm putting this close to the inside of the hole because if it's going to leak, and it is, it's resin, it's going to go all over the place, I want it to fall in and not out. And now I've got that resin on the inside. Along the outside of this edge, I'm going to put glue from my glue gun to temporarily hold this in place, because while the resin's curing one piece to the other, I obviously don't want it to go anywhere. You gotta kind of do this part quick because the glue will get cold and cure fast and dry fast. All right, I'm gonna take this very quickly and stick it underneath my hole. And you can see how I've got, don't miss, or you'll be in trouble. There we go. I'm just pushing the inside part up against the big part for a second to get that glue to stick. All right. Now these two are level on the bottom here, so my pieces holding this up are going to hold it in place while it cures. And I can move on to the next step. And the next step is going to be that I'm going to add some jewels around the edge of this to make it look really nice. And then we'll get to the really fun part and get to start pouring. The next thing I'm going to do is start to fill this hole in with my crystals. I'm going to use my glue gun and stick them on one at a time and just go right underneath the wood along the inside edge. I might do some right against the wood so they're not all the exact same height, and just kind of stagger them a little bit. All right, the very last part of the clear resin that I had from the beginning of this, I'm going to put kind of right around the lip of this and kind of let it spill into the crystals I've put on here. And then I'm going to pour some smaller crushed glass that's like a sand consistency into the resin that's sitting here. That is going to fill in some of the cracks. And also this resin falling down is going to hold these stones in place more permanently so that they're not only stuck here with the glue gun. Now obviously this also helped to hide some of those bigger cracks from when I drilled the hole through this. So I'm just going to help these along, push them into the resin so they catch, and also smash them down enough that they fall over the edge along with the resin and hide the edges of these different crystals and the way they're stuck in there. All right, I'm going to let this all sit for just a little while and cure before I move on to the next step, just so that I know that this is all in nice and tightly. And then we'll come back and we can do the fun part and start pouring everything. All right, let's move on to the fun part of this. This is the exciting part. I will fast forward after I tell you guys what I'm using so you can listen to the music and relax and watch me pour if you want. I forgot to mention earlier, today I am using Total Boat resin, and you can buy a slow, medium, or fast hardener mix. I got the fast, and I will tell you, this is super fast. This is the fastest resin I've worked with, and the reason I like it is for big projects like this. This is a larger piece. it cures fast enough that even though I'm letting things run over the edge, I'm not going to lose half of my resin, and I'll still get really nice lines and really nice detail because it won't all slowly mush together. It'll cure faster than that. That being said, it cures so fast that I'll probably only be able to mix and then do a couple colors, mix, do a couple more, back and forth, because if I mixed everything I needed for this whole piece right now, I would definitely end up with it smoking and getting too hot. Now, Total Boat usually sends you a really nice pump that is a 1-to-1 ratio, 1 pump of resin to 1 pump of the hardener, which is awesome for Total Boat because it's so fast. That being said, in the middle of COVID-19 right now here, they do not have those available, but they still have these really great cups that they send you that have all the measurements, so I can mix my 2-to-1 ratio of those. So I'm going to do that, and what I'm using today is the really cheap folk art paint. I've got bright green, and I've got an apple barrel English navy. I try not to spend more than $1 on my paints. I've got an apple barrel white, and this one I spent a little more on because it's just super cool. It's called Color Shift. It's another folk art from Michaels, and it is blue violet flash, so it's got a metallic look to it. And then in those, I'm going to mix Pearlex powder pigment, and I've got that in blue green, in reflex violet, in apple green, and in macro pearl, or a silvery white. The other thing I'm using is Tester's brand enamel paint in gold. I'm going to mix that right in the resin. This is the kind of paint you use for like model ships and airplanes, and it floats a little bit in your resin, which gives you a really cool 3D effect. So I am going to fast forward all this. I'm going to start mixing and pouring back and forth, and we'll see what happens on the other end. right, you guys, I am done for now. I have to admit, I did the first half of that pour and I was a little nervous because I wasn't loving the colors. So when I mixed the second half, I used a darker purple and a darker green. And then I decided at the last minute to use this glitter that I got at Target. It's just a Target green glitter and a purple glitter. And mix that in, and I think this looks awesome. I'm gonna give you a quick close-up, and then we're gonna just hold off, let this completely dry and cure, and tomorrow I will draw just a few lines and sign it and see if we need any top coat of clear in any spots, take the tape off, and we'll be finished. Okay, so here's what I'm seeing from my vantage point. I actually really love this. I wasn't sure with Peacock colors because it's not really what a geode actually looks like, but look at this. This is so cool. So see how it's moving and the colors are going together and they're kind of running off the edge? What's nice about this Total Boat resin is that that's not going to happen much longer, so I'm not going to lose all this color. But look at this. This is super exciting. Again, not the color scheme I would usually choose, but I feel like it's turning out really cool. Now let me see if I can give you guys a good picture of what this 3D space looks like. I'll get the rest first. See how that 3D space definitely, it's hard to get on video, but there's a definitely really cool hole there. Sometimes I make those really big and make them the feature of the piece, but I just wanted this to be one of the many things you find in this piece, not necessarily the whole thing. So that's why it's tiny. So here is the picture of the full thing. Sorry, my light is on it, so it's hard to get a shot of it without too much glare. But we will let this sit for the evening, and then tomorrow I will finish it up. Okay, it is the next morning, and this is cured, and I am super excited with how it looks. It is way crazier than the patterns I'm used to doing, but that's cool. It's fun. The next thing I'm going to do is add some lines with my acrylic paint pens. I like to use the Posca brand, but you can find all different kinds all over the place. I'll link you to the ones I use, but I use them in fine tip and ultra fine tip. So I have a bunch of colors here that match this. I'm going to do a little bit at a time and just kind of see what I think. There's so much on this piece already, I don't feel like it needs a ton, but you'll be really surprised with what a difference it makes in your painting when you add really tiny crisp lines to all these lines that are a little mushier. I did one here to test, and I really like it so far. I don't have a great trick for these. A lot of people want to know exactly how to use these, and when I started, looked all over the place for direction and didn't really find any. So my one tip for you is, if you can, once you set this down somewhere on here, try to make a smooth line without having to pick it up too much, just because that makes it easier. But I don't always get to do that myself either, because it just is what it is. So I'm going to do lines in mostly some of these spaces that are more solid, where color didn't get mixed together. If you see different spots like this, I've got some really cool color mushing together here and blending. And I don't want to take away from that, so I'll pick more solid things like the white and the purple. I know the glare is not good there. Some of this solid green, maybe this solid white, this solid green, where I want to break up the more boring spots. So let's get going. Okay, I said I wasn't probably going to do much, and I went a little crazy, but you know, this thing's already crazy. I will give you a close-up here, but this is pretty much finished. One note about signatures, I always sign my name on the front because I worked hard on it, so I feel like I should have my name right there on the front, but I usually pick a spot that's pretty inconspicuous. So I sign my name in gold on top of the gold stripe of paint here. I am not going to do another coat on this because for this one I like all the textures. The fact that I poured and then had to pour a second time as things were already curing makes all these different layers bumpy. And I like that, but you could absolutely go ahead and add one clear smooth layer over the top of all this so it's completely solid other than the stones sticking out. You just have to make sure if you don't do it, like I'm not planning to, that people understand that when they clean this, they just need to dust it with a dry rag so that they don't mess with any of the acrylic paint lines. The one thing I do that is probably more selfish than anything else is I'm going to take my UV resin and just put a tiny little stripe of it over my name so that my name can't get erased. And I'll cure that immediately. If you don't have UV resin, you can obviously just use regular resin and let it cure for another few hours. So the last thing I have to do with this is peel my tape off. And I'm going to show you just the beginning of how I do that. I don't want to waste your time on that since this is a long video already. But what you do to peel your tape off, because this one has a lot of resin and it's thick resin and there's a lot going on the edges, is you just use your blowtorch or your heat gun to reheat where you're peeling the tape off. So I'm going to pick one little spot to do that and show you, and then from there I'll just finish it and I will show you some stills and I'll do a little close-up zoom of the finished product. So to start, I'm going to start peeling my tape up from the bottom, and it's going to pop these drips up, but I'm also going to use my scissors to cut so I can peel up to the edge. Now this clear tape, remember, was just along the bottom edge, and I've got my electrical tape under there. So I'm just getting some of this off so I can get to the electrical tape. This is a little bit of an annoying process, so that's why I'm not going to make you watch all of it. Alright, so some of that's out of the way. Now, see how I have all these pieces that are easily pulling away from the tape? The thing is, they are thick enough that they're kind of stuck to the top, and I don't want to peel up and actually peel part of my piece off because that would stink after all this work. So I'm going to do two things. I am going to literally grab my scissors and cut along these edges so I don't accidentally peel up where I have my painting itself. I'll do that in a few spots where it looks really sticky. Some of them are fine, they're coming right off, see? And then I'm going to heat this with the blowtorch and peel up on the tape, and it should release pretty well. So I'm going to use my blowtorch and heat this. Not terribly, just for a few seconds. I don't want to heat my tape so much that I melt it to my piece. I'm going to do that and then grab the tape and peel sideways. This is the most tedious part of doing art, I feel like. The other thing I do, if there's a spot that's stuck, you can see right here, maybe I'll try to zoom in, that this is coming over the edge. I take a straight razor blade and I just push down at the edge of the tape line like that. I don't want to scratch the bottom part of this, but that will release those little pieces there, see, so that they peel off nicely. So I'm going to finish taking all the tape off, and then I'll give you the close-up of the finished product. Okay, everyone, I'm going to show you the finished product. Now listen, I don't usually say this, but the Frugal Resinista might have steered you wrong. Getting that electrical tape off was kind of a nightmare. But what I ended up doing is, and I actually really like it, I got the tape off and I used my blowtorch to keep heating it, but I accidentally burnt a spot of the plastic in one spot, and then I really liked it. So I went along the edges and burnt a little more. So I don't know if you can see. See, I've got my edges roughed up a little bit. Once I had finished this, the black was really nice and smooth, but the problem was that I didn't use black in the piece, so the black didn't look like it matched. So I like that the edges are roughed up a little bit. But anyway, I'm going to show you all these lines that I drew. I've never done one this gaudy. The other thing I was thinking as I was finishing this up was Mardi Gras. That's what it was reminding me of, or the Mardi Gras colors. So I know this is a little wobbly and stuff. I'll take this outside and get some better lighting. Get you guys a good picture of the whole thing, but I'm pretty happy with how it all turned out. As always, you guys, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And if you haven't liked and subscribed, I would love for you to do so and continue watching the different videos that I put out. Thank you again so much. Hope you all have a wonderful day. Bye.